Welcome, everyone. I'm Greg Schnell, the Canadian technician, and I'm here to host the Market Buzz. This show looks at weekly setups across the U.S. market. Using the tools available on StockCharts, we'll look for long time frame trades. Please subscribe to my articles and Twitter feed. So we have ourselves a paused index. We're trying to push through the highs from earlier in the week, but are just kind of hanging around there. So we'll see what happens. Today is options expiration day. So we should have extra high volume today. Not usually too much, but it'll be interesting to watch. We're going to spend the majority of the day today on the gold and silver trade that has started to erupt, and there's been, I think some of the moves are up 30 and 40%. We'll get into that right away here. It's options expiration day, as I mentioned, and those types of days can be market turning points, and it literally, as everybody resets their trades for the next quarter in the options market. So we'll see how that works out, and then we have the Fed meeting coming up roughly 8 trading days out. So we're going to go just be aware of those two things in the backdrop. So a lot of people expect gold to surge higher on the back of the Fed actually lowering interest rates. And let's just say that happens. Well, gold's been on quite a run here, so we might need to pause just a little bit. So anyway, wanted to make sure everybody's aware of that, and we'll work from there. So first of all, here is the gold trade. Actually, maybe I should start with the index because there's a couple of things I want to point out. So just tracking the index here, I've been tracking this blue dotted line that goes up like this. And now we've got a line that's more shallow, and it came in roughly right around the 20-day moving average, but also this trend line is in place. And so the next thing, obviously, if the market was going to roll over, then we'd probably draw a horizontal line somewhere around this gap, maybe 2960 or 2940, and just say if the market starts to break down from there, we'll have more meaningful breakdown. We have had the PPO dip below zero before. It did that in June 24th, and then we've had a big run since then. So we'll find out if we're going to continue to push this uptrend higher, or if the market actually wants to stall here. And again, with the global slowdown and earnings slowdown, it'll be interesting to see. But I think anybody trying to short the market before these large tech companies report earnings like Apple, Amazon, Microsoft, Adobe, Google, it's just difficult. So I'm not suggesting for a minute that this market's going to roll over with those big tech names coming. So try and withhold your fire if you're anxious to believe that this market's over. Okay, so let's get into the gold trade. And what I want to show here is gold has been up. It's been a relatively nice trade, and obviously yesterday it soared up and it had a pretty good close. What we want to talk about today is just how those different gold charts set up, and then we're going to get into the individual gold companies. So I'm just going to work through 10 charts in here that are part of my weekly market review. And one of the things is seeing this big gold push. This is a pretty nice run here, and so we're up. In general, everything's breaking out, and this has surged up to a new high. What we want to watch for now is we're getting a bit of euphoria, and one of the things to be aware of is when the euphoria sets in, you want to be cautious about um, taking your risk level too far. So I want to talk specifically about some of the clues that we have that euphoria is in play. And as the market changes here, this is the big picture on gold. And we had some trend lines that we were working with. If I just maybe zoom this out a little bit, you can see that we've had this big base building up, and we're now just breaking out, and it looks like we're breaking out of the top of a consolidation. So lots of people want to get very bullish here, and I don't doubt that that's probably what's going on. I wouldn't be surprised though to find out we get a little bit of a reprieve here, and then just kind of shake all the gold bulls one more time before the Fed meeting or whatever. But this big downtrend clearly got broken back in April 2017. We didn't do much with that. Now we're breaking out to the upside, and there is a lot. So here, look at the volume down here. was really surging in the last couple of weeks. And so far, we have one more day, obviously. And so when we add that on here, we're going to be up around here. Now, that can be an initiation move, but you also see a lot of these high volume surges end up near tops. And even this one was an interim top that we had a pullback. So this is actually the gold contracts. And now what we want to talk about is the ETFs that are tracking and following them. So here is GLD, and we had, I think we did a pretty good job of calling the bottom here with all of this silent volume. And then all of a sudden, this rocketed to the upside. Now, more importantly, is GLD, dipped back and started to break out. One of the things we wanted to see was GLD start to outperform the S&P 500. So when we look at this chart, most things look fine on it. There's not a lot of trouble here, but I want to show you a couple of other charts. And one example is this dust chart. And uh, let's zoom in first of all, just on the last year. And one of the things we see is this huge drop in the last 2 days. And so this was trading whatever, 10 and a quarter, 10.50. And all of a sudden in 2 days, it's down to $8. So this huge move here, if you imagine everybody getting on one side of the trade, well, literally the volume soared to 32.5 million shares. Now, if we roll that out, let's compare that volume over the last couple of years. And the point I want to make here is that this huge volume that showed up here was after a 1-for-5 split. So what that meant is the price, the number of shares traded, was changed by the split. But we're at one of those big extremes. And so uh, when we get these huge extremes, it's at least worthy to watch that we've had, a significant capitulation perhaps. And having this move of 25% in 2 days isn't really a place that most people want to add on. I'm sure there's a lot of people that do this morning, but this is like a perfect trade where you can set your stop just down here below the $8 level. And as it continues to go higher and pull away from here, you could move your stop up. But we have so much volume here that it does suggest the downside move is a bit overdone on this ETF. Now, if you go to the Canadian ETF HGU, and look at that same thing. We see this huge volume surge coming in, and a lot of times we get these volume surges, and they pretty much mark the top. Now, we don't have to have the absolute high, but we just need to be aware when all of a sudden it's starting to become maniacal trading up around 3 million shares a day in this Canadian ETF. That's probably getting pretty close to a place we want to pay attention. So just using volume as a clue, that can be an issue. Now, HGD would be the opposite. This is expecting the gold miners to fall. And you can see we had a similar sort of move here, but we didn't get the volume response on the Canadian side, which is quite interesting to me. Anyway, the point I'm trying to make is there's pockets of effervescent enthusiasm, and we want to watch for making sure that we're not jumping into a trade that's too late. So just for everybody who's thinking they missed the gold trade, I wouldn't be surprised to find out that you're going to get your chance to get back into the stock. Now, I have a good friend, Dwight, um, and he has a very simple trading system, which just basically takes a 2-hour chart, and this is a 1-hour chart, but you can use whatever you want. And you just have your moving averages fall up under here, and as long as the stock stays above your moving average, you're in, and you just try to hold it. Now, in this particular case, here and here and here, these are pretty close trades. So now you have to decide what you're going to do, and um, I've used this green Keltner channel just to say this is support. And when it kind of after a big thrust like this, you probably want to think about a pause. So this is a method of just trying to track, a nice uptrend. And if it starts to crack on a 60-minute chart, it's going to move the numbers up fast enough that you can get out of your trade and capture a majority of profits. So this Wesdome gold stock, you can see just trending up nicely. And one of the other leaders was Kirkland Lake Gold. and this chart is continuing to perform. And again, these things have been in uptrends for a while. So while you see these charts trending higher, this is a good thing to watch. Now let's just look at the candles we're getting here on gold as we try to break through these prior highs. All of a sudden, this is rolling back over. So this so far is a failed breakout at this point. And then what we want to watch for here is if this is going to start falling, be very, very careful. Um, Again, because we've had the enthusiasm. Now, this is GLD. What we really want to watch for is GDX, which is the miners. And the reason we want to watch them so closely, obviously, is they've had a much bigger move to the upside. So this chart shows $20 here and $28 here. So it's been almost a 50% move off the, call it, late May lows. And so after a 50% move, who'd be surprised that the market takes a little bit of a breather? Anyway, we're up about whatever 40 some percent. But just keep that in mind that these moves have moved a long way. Now, all of that said, it still doesn't change the fact that the big picture on gold has broken out to this new high. And what we want to keep track of now is any sort of a pullback opportunity that the market at least pauses and gives you a chance to re-enter, might be a more worthwhile trade than trying to put it on after these big explosive moves. And this GLD trade doesn't look that explosive, but if I show you the GDX trade, these candles are literally exploding higher and up 6% so far on the week. These are pretty big moves just for an ETF. And again, gold looks to me like it's ready to start pacing out. But for me, I would try to find some sort of a whatever 4-day pullback, 8-day pullback, or something before putting on the trades. Or even if you use that simple moving average system, just putting your a buy point down here closer to the lows than the highs, and allow yourself time to get back into the trade. So with that, I want to cover off some of the gold stocks, and the gold stocks that this is an intraday move from yesterday. Let's go to 1 week, and I want to look more at the ones that have scooter ranking at least. These other ones typically are pretty small prices, like 34 cents. So when it moves up 36%, that's different. But look at this one. This Exelon Resources has popped 40% in a week. JNUG is up 41%, which is 3 times the moving average, or 3 times ETF. So it's really exploding to the upside. Okay, I'm going to take a break here. I am speaking at the Traders Expo in Chicago on Tuesday, right around 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Anybody from Chicago who is out there or plans to be there, I'd look forward to seeing you at the event. Feel free to take the time to say hello. I'd enjoy that. But we're going to cut away here for a commercial break, and we'll be right back.
Today's market volatility provides savvy traders and active investors with an abundance of profitable opportunities. At the Traders Expo Chicago, July 21st through 23rd, dozens of the most respected traders in the world, including Rick Santelli, John Najarian, Tom Sosnoff, Linda Rashke, and Ralph Akampora, will explain how they're adapting their strategies and share the specific trading opportunities they've identified in equities, commodities, forex, futures, and cryptocurrencies. Claim your free pass to join them at chicagotradersexpo.com.
Welcome back. We're going to cover off some of the charts that have been moving, and potentially some of the ideas that are starting to float around. This week has seen a big reversal in the gold silver ratio. And if we just look through the list, here's silver, 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 silver. So out of my gold and precious metals list, essentially, silver has been one of the big performers this week. And a lot of these charts are just getting started. Now, we have different ways that we can control these. So I have ranked them right now just by the percentage moves. And if we, jump into these charts and take a quick look at them, what you'll see is, this is just a really nice initiation move. Um, and again, they're moving so fast. Who knows, it might need a break. Now, looking back here, we saw that this big explosive move happened in 2016. And what we want to watch for is, perhaps we're just starting this and it still has a long way to go. But at least you have a reason to be cautious here with that wild volume that we saw come in on the overall indexes. Now, here's Dolly Varden Silver. This is, clearly in a downtrend and trying to change that right now, trying to get above the 40-week moving average. Here's Fortuna Silver, and again, big push here to change the trend. And this is a buck off move that can trend a lot higher. My big point is, over the next few days, if you get any sort of a pullback or a relaxation, that might give you a better entry than trying to buy at the top of these really tall candles. Bear Creek Mining, again, this one, breaking out to new 52-week highs, really a nice push. So all of these charts are setting up really nice. This Fortuna Silver, this is the Canadian version of the same ticker. Here's a Venus Silver. So again, a lot of these names at the top of the list for the moves this week are silver names. And it doesn't mean that the move is over, but it definitely means that the move might need to consolidate for a few days or whatever. So I'd be cautious on trying to add after, this one's up 36% on the week. It's kind of hard to grab these. Okay, so now again, we're looking at the just percentage moves in these stocks. Here's New Gold. This thing was 61 cents 2 months ago and is now a buck 50. So that's up more than 100%. And again, these dogs can really bark and take off to the upside. Great Panther Silver. This one is a pretty interesting chart. Once it kind of got moving, it ran for 8 weeks or so, and here's kind of its first week up off the lows. Again, a little hard to buy the sudden spike, but looking at some of those ideas, this New Gold again, Nugget, the directional move. Again, I think just trying to make the point here that a lot of these have started to push. Now, I sorted based on stocks that had the biggest push this week, not necessarily the best place to look, but look at this Silver Creek Metals breaking out to new all-time highs. That's a pretty nice chart, sitting up around $5, 477. Garibaldi Resources, this one has had a nice move too, and it doesn't look that extreme on a weekly chart, but if I just go grab that one, uh, we'll just go on to this 60-minute chart here. So what you see, it was 70 cents at the end of June. It's a buck 70 now, and this thing has just been surging. It's been a great mover. So again, hard to buy them when they're so far stretched above this moving average, but give them a chance to pull back. And I think, we're more likely that we've got a place to at least look for a pause to try and get back into the trade if you missed it, or if you're in the trade, just try to make sure you've got your gains protected, because some of these gains are year-long gains or multi-year gains, and you've made them in a couple of weeks. Getting back to I lost my list. Here it is. Getting back into these trades, this 3 times long silver USLV, trying to make a big move here. Again, I'd wait for a bit of a pullback and then try to find an entry if you're looking. First Majestic, all of these are just breaking out. So from a technical perspective, they're good. It's just hard to add after a 25% move. Now we can sort these trades again. This is just looking at the biggest names, but the main thrust of the conversation today is don't be afraid to look at the silver names. They're starting to move, and when you get this pullback, whatever, over the next few days, that'd be a nice place to call. And if I've got another screen here in my office, but if we just go look at the 5-minute of GLD, I think you'll get an idea what I mean by a sudden surge here. And we can see gold dropping off quite hard all of a sudden. So it shouldn't be a surprise that we have some sort of checkpoint on this. And as the market comes back to us, then we might get a better chance to enter these trades. Okay, let's go back, and I want to show you how to manipulate this chart list a little bit. So again, you might not be interested in these low priced ones, but we can do a couple of things. We can rank them by scooter ranking, and this is intraday. And when we do that, all of a sudden you see all of these red candles showing up. And so the optimism that we might have had at 7:30 or 9:30 Eastern time is quickly changing. And so I don't think the trade is over. I just think that we've had a lot of euphoria, and as it comes back, that's a better place to look for. But now, by using this scooter ranking, you can start to calculate or find stocks that have had some of the strongest price moves, and at least as they pull back, recognize that there might be an opportunity to go and pick those up. But if I try to go look at this one, I'm not going to be able to go to the next one and the next one and the next one. So, what I'd like to do instead is get rid of these numbers at the front and then renumber them based on the scooter ranking. So we're going to go down to we're going to go over and we're going to go into edit list mode. And by editing the list, it allows us to change these names quickly. So we're going to scoot to the bottom of the chart list, scroll up, hit select all. And now we want to remove the numbers from this list. And as we do that, okay, all the numbers are gone. And now what we want to do is go back to summary mode. And in summary mode, we can control the sort order. So uh, let's select volume and then select scooter ranking. And the reason I want to do that is if they don't have a scooter ranking, then we can at least look at their volume and see if that's still a chart we want to look at. Now we got to go back to the bottom of this list, and here's a button right down here at the very end called number in sorted order. And when we do that, it's going to put everything in this ranking. So let me just page down here and show you kind of what I was hoping to do when we run out of the scooter ranking. So there's the scooter ranking. And then here we've ranked by volume over here on the side when they don't have a scooter ranking. So the idea being, at least we can find out what other stocks are enjoying high volume, and that might be a place to look. So as an example, this McEwen Mining is one I've liked to trade in the past, and that's just trying to break out to new 2019 highs. So we get a pullback to whatever, a $1.80, a $1.60, and maybe that's something that we can start to look for on the way up. So even if it's not in the big enough to have a scooter ranking in the US, it might have one in Canada, and that particular stock does. But here's Largo. This stock was unbelievable. It was up at 450 and is already down at 175, and it's still struggling to even move. Now I think, if I'm not mistaken, this one it has a strange metal component, that it's in vanadium or vanadium or something like that. So, but the point I want to make is some of these are still terrible, and try and avoid those. If they can't get moving when everything else has moved 100%, you probably isn't the best place to jump on. And I think you're better off farming some of the stronger names, like even this Oceana Gold has started to move now, so perhaps that one you can put on your get on board list. It was at one point a great stock and then pulled back. Okay, so in that Caledonia Mining, if it doesn't break through $8, do you really want to own it? I don't think you do. So that's looking at the bottom of the list, but it doesn't take very long. We don't have many stocks that are below 75 on the scooter ranking. And again, the scooter ranking in Canada includes all of the Canadian stocks, all of the Canadian ETFs, large cap, small cap. They're all put together as long as they have a price bigger than $1. So what we see right now is this huge list of gold and gold mining stocks that are clearly outperforming almost everything else on the index. Now, even some of these US names, here's AG, that's clearly outperforming. It's got a 98.5 scooter ranking, and look at that chart, it's just gone ballistic. So my perspective would be that the breadth is still here. This is still a nice area to look at. I don't think the overall move is done. I just think that we at least need a pause in the price action to allow for a better entry. Okay, let's go look at the 10 per page. What we want to talk about here is just, in general, is the chart setting it up. And I'd say this Eldorado Gold, beautiful move off $5, comes up to 10, might give you a pullback to 7 or 8, and perhaps you can enter there. Van Ector's Gold Mine, Junior Gold Miners ETF, iShares, all of these are looking good. You're just looking for a pullback to try and find entries. SLVP, Global Silver Miners ETF, again, breaking out to new 52-week highs. You look back here, and these these moves are just getting started. So this is a nice place to look at, and the pullback we get today probably suggests, you know, being aware of it. Now look at what we got back here. We got this nice volume surge, and it hardly pulled back. It just kept going in 2016. So here we are with this big 1 million volume surge. Maybe it just keeps going, but my main thrust here would be to try and find a little bit of a pullback to add to get into the trade. Exelon Resources starting to move, PPO just going above zero. I really, that chart's kind of everything I like. The relative strength is moving to new 8 or 9 month highs. That's quite bullish. Continental Gold, this one's already up near 2-year highs. So what's not to like? That one's just breaking out and looks like it's ready to continue to climb. And your momentum here down at the bottom, the PPO is starting to leave the signal line, really head out. This First Majestic Silver, this is the Canadian listing, really taking off, up 20% this week. Just a beautiful move to the upside. And again, looking left on the chart, we've seen, I don't think there's any 25% moves in here, but there's a couple of big ones that might give you the opportunity to buy on a pullback intra-week. Okay. And again, I think the silver charts are just starting to break out, whereas a lot of the gold charts have already started to break out. This American Silver USA.to, this one's up, look at the volume, highest ever. Perhaps we're here, but it would surprise me that we're already here. I think we're closer to the original thrust and just starting to break out. And there's been a lot of central bank buying of gold in the last year and a half. So as these charts start to accelerate, I think there's a way to play that. Now, here's the silver miners ETF. If you just want something single time, just starting to break out of a base, new 52-week highs, volume coming in. That doesn't look like a trade that's ready to end just yet, but Semifo, these are really nice charts, and this one just gave a couple of weeks pullback, and now it's up 10% in a week or so. And as this starts to break above this consolidation area, probably another place to add. Alistair Gold, this one's just been beautiful since the beginning of the year. New Gold, this is a pretty weak stock, but if it's going to start to run, there's lots of room. It was a $6 stock 2 years ago. It's $1 now, so there's some room to the upside there. Nova Gold, this one's breaking out to new 2-year highs. Centerra Gold, this one's breaking out to all-time highs. That's just an amazing move. Keep pushing too hard on the chart. Breaking out to all-time highs, really a nice inflection point. Nova Gold Resources, same thing here, trying to get going. And looking across at the different names, I'm just trying to give you a feel that these charts are all setting up. So if you have a chart list all prepared, you can go in and look, sort them by scooter ranking, or sort them by volume, or sort them by RSI. You could sort them by just about anything, and try and bring the strong names to the top. So as we get this this move in gold and silver, I don't think it's over. I think there's a lot more upside, but as it shakes out people here over the next 3 or 4 days, perhaps that gives you a chance to jump on board. So with that, thanks for taking the time to join me on Market Buzz. Market Buzz airs live on Wednesdays and Fridays at 10:30 a.m. Eastern, 7:30 a.m. Pacific on StockCharts TV. You can also catch replays on the StockCharts YouTube channel or on StockCharts TV, which has a running list of technical charting informational shows. And don't forget, I'll be in Chicago next week on Tuesday at the Traders Expo. Look forward to seeing you there. Thanks.